All right, in this video, we're going to take a look at some examples of testing a single mean, hypothesis testing of a single mean. So example one, we have a car company claims one model of their SUV gets 40 miles per gallon. You want to test the claim the mean miles per gallon of this model of SUV is less than 40 miles per gallon. So you obtain a random sample of 65 of these cars and find that the sample mean is 39 miles per gallon with a sample standard deviation of 5.1 miles per gallon. Again, this is a sample standard deviation. So test your claim at the 5% significance level. So for this one, we have, there we go, okay. Our null hypothesis is that the mean miles per gallon is 40 miles per gallon, or it could be higher. Again, I don't think the car company is going to be upset if their actual miles per gallon is higher than 40, even though they advertise it at 40. Versus the alternative hypothesis that is less than 40. So again, the null hypothesis is 40, or it could be greater than or equal to 40, but the alternative hypothesis is less than 40. So we're thinking the mean miles per gallon might be less than what they say it is, so we'll have to see. We're going to test our claim at the 5% significance level. So let's go ahead and run these through. I'm going to link the code to the program in the description, so if you want to use that, otherwise use whatever it is you've been using up to this point to answer the questions we've talked about in this course. All right, so I'm going to run the imports here, and then once I run this, it's going to bring me to enter the given population mean. So the population mean we're saying is 40, and the significance level is 5%, I believe. Yeah, 5%, 0.05 as a decimal. Okay. And now left-tailed, right-tailed, or two-tailed. Well, according to our alternative hypothesis, it's less than 40 miles per gallon, so it's left-tailed. So left-tailed. In this case, we are given summary statistics, so that would be option 2. Our sample mean was 39, I believe. Yeah, 39. I'm getting old, so I can't remember this as easily as I used to. Sample standard deviation 5.1? Yeah, 5.1. And sample size 65? Yeah, 65. Wow, I'm getting not bad. I'm getting better. All right, so here we have our information. We have our test statistic is negative 1.5808. Our critical value negative 1.669. So in terms of our test statistic, it's got to be less. Our rejection region is less than any test statistic we'd get less than negative 1.669. This is actually greater than negative 1.669, so it's not in the rejection region. Our p-value of 5.94% is higher than our significance level of 5%. And then an upper bound for this is 40.0558. So this is a one-sided confidence interval. So here I'm listing it as an upper bound. You could, if you want, do a confidence interval, a T confidence interval, not a Z confidence interval, but a T confidence interval of 90%, and your upper number for that should be 40.0558. So, but in any event, our critical value and test statistic method, our p-value greater than the significance level, and our 95% upper bound of 40.0558, where the interpretation of that, again, is we are 95% confident that our true population mean is going to be 40.0558 miles per gallon or less. So because our population mean of 40 is less than 40.0558, because our p-value is greater than our significance level, and because our critical value does not fall in the rejection region, it's not less than negative 1.669, we do not reject the null hypothesis. So whether you use the critical value and test statistic approach, the p-value approach, or the confidence interval approach, do not reject the null hypothesis. Again, if you're going to use the confidence level approach, please make sure you are using the T distribution with the appropriate degrees of freedom. And you would want, for a left-tailed hypothesis test, you would want to construct a 90% confidence interval of alpha is 5%. So remember, we double alpha and then subtract it from 100%. So 10% away from 100% is 90%. The upper bound on a 90% confidence interval, two-tailed confidence interval for 90% is 40.0558. So do not reject the null hypothesis. At the 95% confidence level, we do not have sufficient evidence to reject the claim that the mean miles per gallon of this model is 40 miles per gallon, and conclude that our sample did not give us reason to believe that it might be less. So even though, again, we got a 39 miles per gallon for our sample, it was not considered statistically significant enough, and that was just the way the cookies crumbled. So, all right, example 2, a company claims it can boost your statistics grade by 10%. You want to test the claim that the mean grade increase is not 10%. So we're not saying it's less, we're not saying it's more, we're just saying it's not equal to 10%. So you randomly sample 20 statistics students who used the program and recorded their percent grade increase from one test to the next. Test your claim at the 10% level of significance. So here's our increases in percentage. We'll just use whole number percentages. Our null hypothesis is that the grade is going to be increased by 10%. We claim that it's not increased by 10%. So again, we're not saying if it's left less than or greater than and to the right. We're just saying it's not equal to. So this is a two-tailed hypothesis test. So let's go ahead and enter in the data. So our given population mean, we're saying is 10%. And because we're dealing with whole numbers, we don't have to convert these scores to decimals like 0.08 and 0.05. We can just keep them as whole numbers, just like we can keep the 10% as a whole number. Our significance level, I think, was 0.1. Yeah, alpha is 0.1. So 10% level of significance. Right. This is a two-tailed test, so option 3. And we are given a data set. So we're going to enter in the data set and press D when we're done, and then U to undo. So we enter in a number and then hit enter, and it'll actually show us the data set. So first we have 8, 5, 7, 9, and 10. So we have 8, enter, 5, 7, enter. Now, the next number is 9, but let's say I'm going so fast and I screw up and I hit it at 8 again. So I have 8, 5, 7, 8 when I really wanted 8, 5, 7, 9. And by the way, we can enter these in by columns first or by rows or whatever. Doesn't matter what order you go in. But here I screwed up and I wanted a 9, but I typed in 8 and I hit enter. And the nice thing is about it printing out like this is I can see that I did in fact hit 8 if I was wondering if I hit 8 or 9. So if I press U and then enter, it'll undo it. Now it's not going to print it in this case. I might adjust that later. But right now it has 8, 5, and 7 again. Now if I add in the 9, now I got 8, 5, 7, and 9. So 8, 5, 7, 9, and 10. And then 12, 7, 8. So 12, 7, 8. 11, 15, 4, 13. 11, 15, 4, and 13. 9, 8, 11, 9. 9, 8. And 3, 5, 8, and 12. Okay, after I press enter for 12, I have all that data in. I'm going to press D for done and then press enter. And here I have my sample mean is 8.7, calculates the sample standard deviation, gives the sample size. Here our test statistic is negative 1.8774, and it is a two-tailed test. Our critical values are plus or minus 1.7291, and notice negative 1.8774 is not in between negative and positive 1.7291, so this would be in the rejection region. Also note that our p-value of 7.59% is less than our our significance level of 10%. So we would reject the null hypothesis and the p-value approach. Our 90% confidence interval between 7.5 and 9.89 or even 9.9, very close to containing that mean of 10, but the mean is not in, the population mean of 10 is not in this confidence interval. So all three of these methods, whether we take the test statistic and critical value approach, the p-value approach, or the confidence interval approach, all three of them agree that we should reject the null hypothesis. So again, all three of them will agree if we've done our calculations correctly. We're going to reject the null hypothesis, so at the 90% confidence level, we have sufficient evidence to reject the claim that the mean increase in score is 10%, and conclude that our sample gives us reason to believe that the mean is not 10%. Now, again, we don't We're not saying if it's less than 10% or it's greater than 10%. We're just saying that our evidence shows us that we can't support the claim that it is 10%. And again, the 90% confidence interval, notice these values are below 10. It's below that 10% that the company claims. That would give me reason to believe that it might be less. But again, we already determined we're going to do a two-tailed test and the confidence interval and all that. So again, we reach the same conclusion with either one of these methods to reject the null hypothesis in this case. So, all right, that about does it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.